Good morning, class. My name is Nam Villalobos. My presentation was on Adolf Hitler. He was born April 20, 1889. He died April 30, 1945. And one significant thing he did was the leader of the Nationalist Socialist Party. Birth, early years, and influences. Adolf Hitler was born in Brno am in Austria. He was the son of Alois Hitler, a customs official in Austria. When Adolf Hitler grew older, he had struggled with his parents passing. Around the age of 18, Hitler put the past behind him. In 1907, he dropped out of high school and moved to Vienna. He entered to take the entrance exam to Academy of Fine Arts Vienna. He didn't pass the exam, unfortunately, but he kept pursuing art. Any thoughts of the name Vienna brought a living memory of the saddest period in his life, which reminded him of his parents' passing. Hitler's only way of making a living was through his paintings. During his free time, he would read and study different philosophical viewpoints in which he discovered Marxism and Judaism. In 1913, World War I had just begun. This gave Hitler the motivation to join the Bavarian army. And this is of a collection of his artworks, of which I found, which I thought were pretty neat, which I think he was a pretty dang good artist. Political development. He believed he finally gained the theoretical knowledge of the social problem in 1909 and 1910. He spent more time in politics throughout the war. His belief in God and protecting humanity grew stronger. His belief in certain systems around the world were unconventional, he believed. The various understandings from country to country developed Hitler to become more involved with politics. This is a passage from his book. The Jewish doctrine of Marxism repudiates the aristocratic principle of nature and substitutes for it the internal privilege of force and energy. It denies the individual worth of the human personality, impugns the teaching that nationhood and race have a primary significance, and by doing this, it takes away the very foundations of human existence and human civilization. This here infuriated Hitler. This was not God's purpose for humanity. If the Marxist teaching were to be accepted as the foundation of the life of the universe, it would lead to the disappearance of all order that is conceivable to the human mind. Should the Jew triumph over the people of this world, his crown will be the funeral wreath of mankind. And so I believe today that my conduct is in accordance with the will of the Almighty Creator. In standing guard against the Jew, I am defending the handiwork of the Lord, which is another passage from his book. Hitler sees himself as the one true defender of the Lord, but he hasn't the slightest idea on where to begin, as no one was really familiar with him. Hitler spent days on end figuring out plans, but he had no effective way in completing his actions. Achievements. Well, he saved Germany. He saved Germany by creating the Nationalist Socialist Party. This is another passage from his book. The people in Hitler were convinced that only by recognizing such truths could we stop the national decline in Germany and lay a granite foundation on which the state could again be built, which would not be a piece of mechanism alien to our people and constituted for economic purposes and interest, but an organism created from the soul of the people themselves. Failures. Towards the end of the war, Hitler had committed suicide. He had escaped death in July of 1944. He had a couple military officials who tried to assassinate him a few times, and then he ended up having those officials executed. He knew he had lost the war by early 1945, but he insisted that Germans fight on to the death. On April 29, Hitler married his longtime mistress, Eva Braun. On April 30, they committed suicide together. His legacy is the memory of one of the most dreadful tyrannies of modern times. His writings. His main writing was his book, Mein Kampf. Adolf Hitler shared his viewpoints and journey through his life in his autobiographical. Hitler wrote Mein Kampf while imprisoned for his political crimes. He began his book to pay his financial obligations due to the cost of his trial. Hitler describes the process and how he became the leader we all know today. He wanted to let the world know what he believed in and what he stood for and what was right versus wrong. He explains his viewpoints very convincingly. He did not believe in the way the Jewish had lived their lives. He saw their lifestyle as a threat to take over the world. Hitler was a very successful leader for Germany. He could accomplish everything he set his mind to, but he was greedy and he wanted too much, and it took his life. My personal conclusion. When doing his research, I wanted to stay away from the negative side of Hitler and wanted to find the good and focus on the good. Adolf Hitler was a man full of potential and full of national pride. The passing of his parents at an early age did not stop Hitler from becoming the man it meant him to become. It's just an amazing thing what he had accomplished for himself. Everything he wanted, he went after it and was able to capture it. The media and the public all viewed him as an evil man regardless of what he had accomplished. I too see Hitler as an evil man for the crimes he had committed, but looking at it in a different perspective, he's a political leader that could be looked up to. Of what he had endured through his life, and for him to force himself to have a mindset to become successful and be successful. And that's it. Thank you guys for listening.